as we enter into a new era of leadership, empowerment, and influence. In this season 2 of Transcend with M, we want to highlight the power that lies underneath us, underneath you. On this new season, we will showcase true stories about women who, one way or another, are exercising influence by tapping on their strength and their own story. I hope, just like me, that you let all these women and their stories empower you today and shape your tomorrow, just like they have helped me. So welcome to Season 2 of Transcend with M. Know her story.
Hello, everyone. Today we are welcoming Jessica Wrigley. And like me, Jessica has been working in the insurance industry for several years. Currently, she is the Senior Territory Manager for Safeco and an amazing working mom to an 11-year-old son, Jack, and wife to 12 years to her husband, Steve. We got to make sure we mention Steve. So, like most women, Jessica juggles competing priorities every single day. Jessica is a passionate advocate for those in marginalized communities and especially on those with literacy for children and supporting the U.S. veterans. So in addition to her responsibilities at home and at work, she spends hundreds of hours volunteering to help those in need. She also loves her work, which is primarily to aid independent insurance agents with growing their business. And this fits perfectly with her role because independent agents are known for giving back so much to their local communities that, it just makes it perfect for her. So welcome, Jess. I am so grateful to have you here with me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, I cannot wait where this conversation, I cannot wait to see where this conversation goes. And I cannot wait to learn more about your story and why it's so important to you, not just to empower others, but giving back. I think that's amazing. So let's just start there. Veterans and literacy. Why are these two are so important to you?
So let's start with veterans because that's probably the easiest thing to do. I am a military brat. My dad was in the Air Force for a little over 20 years, and I was born and raised all around the United States and globe. I was actually born in Germany. And then I lived in Germany again when I was in middle school. I happened to live there when the Berlin Wall came down, which is kind of an interesting little tidbit. But I really started to appreciate the importance of taking care of our veterans after my dad retired. I think it was really a struggle for him to sort of acclimate to civilian world. And he's not the only one. And these people, these men and women give so much of themselves. They sacrifice everything, and their family sacrificed a lot too. My mother, I don't want to take anything away from her. She also sacrificed a lot with that career choice of my father. So it hits really home. I think that these are folks that need more support, especially around mental health and job opportunities. And so that's why that cause is so important to me. And then kids, literacy. So books were always a huge part of my life. I'm a very voracious reader. I read 2 or 3 books a week, various genres and so forth. And that's because of my dad too. Mm-hmm. My dad was always a big reader, and there were always books in our house. I can't remember a time as a child where there weren't books around, and my parents both read to my brother and I at night. And several years ago, a friend of mine who works for this organization called Project Learn in Lowell shared with me that in the community of Lowell, which is a very diverse community, the average household with kids under the age of 8 has 0 books in their house. 0 books. And that broke my heart. I couldn't believe it, quite frankly. And so I started as a member of the associate board for Project Learn in Lowell. I started being an advocate for them and helping them to collect books.
Yeah.
that are distributed in these book nooks throughout the city of Lowell, so that these kids can have access to books. And it's a whole program that I could rattle on about forever. But that education is the key to success for really any individual, and it starts with literacy. You can't do math or science without first knowing how to read, and you can't embrace technology without knowing how to read, and you can't really learn how to read without books. So those are why those causes are so important to me.
That's very nice. I think it's a beautiful thing. And I am very surprised to hear about, the average of 0 books on their homes. Fun fact, last year for Christmas, actually, I ran a book drive and it was beautiful to have packages sent to my house from, people I used to work with from Vermont. Thanks, Amanda. People that I used to work in Framingham. Thanks, Christine. It was beautiful, and I got hundreds of books, and then Veronica and I, divided them based on age and whatnot, and we actually one Anthony's cousin's girlfriend, she's a teacher, and she said she's just starting. So she said that she didn't have enough books on her classroom, and like her, there were other teachers that didn't have enough books because their budgets were cut. So we basically just gave them pretty much all of them, and she was so happy about them. So now she uses them on her classroom because it's elementary.
That's incredible.
And you feel so good because technology has taken over our lives, and it's so important to at least once a month. I know that you, like, I am not like you. I can't. I it takes me like 2 weeks to read one book because
there's nothing wrong with that,
with everything going on. Yeah. But like at least once a month, pick up a book and nourish yourself with knowledge. How do you feel that your work with veterans and kids have not only empowered them, but empower any other person involved, any other woman involved, moms like you? Tell me a little bit about that, the mom circle in getting this done and getting together, not just for helping the kids, but the veterans as well.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so what's interesting is, so I live in a community, I live in North Andover, Massachusetts, and I live in a community that is predominantly white and affluent, although there are a lot of folks here who still need help and support, and we do a lot to support our local community. But for the most part, our community has more than it needs, and can assist other folks in other communities where they don't have access to as much. And when I was a producer at the insurance agency that I used to work for, MTM Insurance, here in North Andover, the folks who are at the agency are very actively involved in the community here, and they give back in a number of ways. But when I worked there, it was when I was first introduced to Project Learn, and I had wanted to do this book drive to support Project Learn, but also, to help my community it's helpful in many ways when you take books from, like, so my house, my son's 11 years old and he has a hard time parting with books. But we don't need books from when he was 2 years old in our house, and we don't want to just throw them in the trash, right? Like, we don't just want to clutter up and fill up a landfill. I feel like it's irresponsible to do that. And so it's sort of solving a lot of problems all at the same time. We organized a book drive. I was partnering with some realtors that I worked with at the time. So we were able to sort of market those realtors and those mortgage folks that I was working with when I was a producer at the agency. It was a great opportunity for all of us to come together as a core group, as a network, to support our communities, but also each other. So it was great. You know, I could share on my producer page what I was doing in support of helping, you know, the realtors and the mortgage folks, but also the people that needed these books and all the people that needed to get rid of these books. And it took off like lightning. I mean, this was probably 4 years ago, the first time we did a book drive. And I think that first book drive, we collected maybe like over 1,200 books that we were able to then redistribute to people who actually needed them in the city of Lowell. And, you know, at the same time, all of us women, all of us were supporting each other. So the agency that I worked for is owned by women. The people that I was networking with, the realtors and the mortgage people, they were also women. The woman who designed the flyer that we shared on social media and, you know, throughout all of the offices that were involved, also a woman. You know, so for me, anytime I can support other women in their work while also doing good for the communities that we live in, to me, that's a win. And that's why I try to do it that way. You know, as far as the veterans go, you know, my dad is my favorite veteran. You know, they don't get enough support or help. I don't know, most of the support that I give veterans today in this current environment that we live in is done through donations. I give up a portion of my paycheck, always goes to local veterans. Outside of COVID times, I would like to go back to actually volunteering with them in person. I think helping them find jobs that are meaningful to them, that allow them to support themselves and maintain their mental health, helping them find access to medical resources. There's a place in Bedford, Mass, where my parents live because my dad retired out of Hanscom Air Force Base, the VA there. You know, there are lots of folks that live there that don't get to see their families, you know, and I would like to just go there and play checkers with somebody or read a book to them because they can no longer read. Just basically spend time with them and thank them for the work that they do. I've spent time writing letters to veterans to thank them for their service, you know, just to show them appreciation. Certainly, I feel like there's so much more that we could do. It's just kind of difficult in this current world that we're living in, where you can't go and be with somebody face to face. But yeah, those causes are, I mean, it's heartbreaking to me, the lack of access and you know, we have so much. And there's so much pain out there. And for me, the best way that I, as a super empathetic person, as a very emotional human, the best way for me to help is to take action. By taking action, it's very selfish, but by taking action, I'm helping them, but I'm also helping myself, if that makes sense. I feel a lot better when I do something that is good for other people. And then in turn, it helps me feel better. And also sets a great example for my son, who has no idea how good he has it. So we have to make sure that he's learning to, you know,
they don't. My daughter doesn't either. But you know, I think that's beautiful because this past year before COVID, the Young Agent Association through MAIA, we, you know, back December 2019, we met and we were like, okay, so what are we going to focus on and who needs most help? And we decided that veterans was going to be our main, you know, focus on 2020. And we had a whole plan, a whole year planned out on how we were going to help, how we were going to incorporate them. We were going to do an activity at the bowling alley in Tewksbury with veterans and young agents. And we were going to do a lot of different things, and COVID hit. And then it's like, how the heck are we going to do this? We still have to push through. You know, we have carriers that are committed to helping us, you know, put stuff up there, help people and whatnot. And I think, you know, as an association, we did a really good job doing the best we could with the situation. So we, you know, brought meals to the Veterans Hospital here in Worcester. We donated masks. We bought the mask from a local person, a local woman, and then we brought it to the veterans We also helped veterans within the firefighters and nurses, and it just blossomed on this beautiful thing. And surprisingly enough, the association won the award this year because we were able to pivot into helping them. And I think it is so true. My dad is a veteran, and he didn't retire after 38 years.
Wow.
Because he didn't know how he was going to do it, right?
Right.
Granted, my dad was on the reserve, which he was inactive 24/7. And my mom decided for us to stay put. We're in our house, and he was the one who traveled all the time, and we'll spend months at a time in Germany, North Carolina, New Jersey, everywhere. He went everywhere. But like you said, they need help on that transition, and I could totally relate. When I see someone at the lights and it says veteran don't have food, I break down, because I'm like, how can a person that gave their entire lives to this country for us to be safe don't have food on their plate? Like, how can that be? And I am not one to give money, but I love food. So I always been like, do you want some food? And and I have been able to sit down with my daughter to have meals with these people and learn about their stories. And my husband always yells at me because he's like, you're crazy, you trust everyone and whatever. But I told him, what do I have to lose? Like, worst case, they're gonna run away, and my credit card is gonna get declined. It's totally fine. So I totally relate to that, because it's so much truth and so much that we can definitely do for them. As a woman and daughter of a veteran, and have grown up in many different places and have to move around, how did you, and your mom, I think, we gotta give them a lot of credits. Our moms are the warriors, really. They're the ones keeping everything together. How as women were you guys able to cope with moving so much around and having a sense of belonging, and kind of regrouping after every move, because it's difficult to get acclimated and then having to do it all over again. And I think that brings a certain strength. And probably the reason you are today is because, the strength you have built through having to go through that. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, no question. My mom is one of the strongest people to walk the face of the earth. And she is a very, she's stoic in all of the best ways. She has a huge heart as well. And she was, for sure, my father would agree, she's the rock of our family. And she's a mother to pretty much everybody that she knows. She has that mothering quality, which is interesting because both my parents actually grew up in completely different households. They both were raised by single parents. My mom lost her father when she was 10, and my dad's father was an alcoholic who was also a veteran, who came home from after serving war with a problem with addiction and became violent. And my grandmother left him and was left to raise 7 children on her own. But for sure, my mom is really strong for lots of reasons. And I learned how to be strong from her, although she and I are very different, because I tend to be a person that wears my heart on my sleeve, and how I'm feeling in the moment always. I just don't have, I'm not good at keeping emotions in all the time, for better or for worse. And she is a very level-headed, calm person all the time. And I think she became that way because she had no choice. She was only 19 when she found out she was having me. She and my father were already living in Germany at that point. My parents are from Maine. And neither of them had ever lived outside of Maine before. So imagine imagine being 19 or 20 years old, living in a foreign country in the 70s. I was born in 1976. I'll just put that out there, and I'm 44. So it's the 70s. So it's the Cold War. And you're living in the German economy because they did not live in base housing at that time. And she was very pregnant and having a baby, and nobody around her spoke English. And she was very much like a fish out of water. So she had no choice but to be strong and to adapt. And when I was 9 months old, we moved back to the States, to Illinois. My brother was born there. Again, no choice but to sort of figure out how to adapt. My father had done a career change where he went from being a medic to being a computer technician / engineer type job, which would make it so that he would have to leave for months at a time. So my mother was left to tend to us, but she also worked. She was a florist. She worked full time and also tried to take care of us. And, she rose up and stepped up like so many women do because they don't really have a choice. Right. And every time we moved, it was like that. It's time to move. No problem. We pack everything up. We move to the new place. We start fresh. You make new friends. And every time that we had to do that, some people, growing up in a military family, I have a brother who was we're very close, but we're very different. I would say that I was more able to be a chameleon where it was harder for him, I would say. He and I handled that process differently. And if you I could talk to a lot of my friends who are also fellow military brats who feel the same way as me, but then some that are very different. I'm a very extroverted person, and a lot of military brats are very introverted people. And so how you deal with it is different depending upon your personality. But certainly for me and my mom, we just did what we had to do because there really was no other choice. It's not like if your parents are moving to Germany, you can stay in New York, you have to go. So, similar to now, everything that all of us are going through today as a result of the pandemic, it's kind of crazy if you go back to February before all of this started, February of 2020, and think about all of the things that you have experienced as a mom or a wife or a woman or a person, because this is not just a woman thing. None of us would believe that we would ever be here and that we would be able to get through and endure what we have endured. But here we are. We're still here.
Or have the strength. It's a year.
It is a year.
And I remember in 2020, on February 2020, we were like, what? A year to get the vaccine? And here we are. It's a year later, and we still going through this, and the strength that all of us, as humanity has had just through all different levels, losing people, going through the sickness itself, or having to see our children having to adapt quickly and not being able to have that socialization. It's been crazy. And I think all of us are better because of it, to be honest with you.
I think we will definitely see, if you choose to find positive things as a result of what we've all been living through, we will find them. There's certainly people out there who don't want to make that choice, but I agree with you, Monica, that there's a lot of good that has come out of this. Certainly developing more resilient children is really critical and for them and their future success. I think it's a tribute to my success and to your success, having gone through all of that you have experienced in your youth, and all of that constant change and constant moving around, and constantly sort of every time you have to move to a new location as a child and sort of start over again, you either adapt or you are really going to have a hard time, So I feel like in many ways, the way that I was the first 20 years of my life sort of prepared me for the grit that I was going to need. And I've always wondered, I keep trying to teach grit to my son prior to this year. It was like, how do I explain to him how good he has it? It's impossible. But now all of our kids are learning what it means to persevere and to push through when things are hard and to not give up on yourself. Because they don't have a choice. They have to keep going. They have to continue going to school this way, because either that or no school, you know what I mean? So there are a lot of lessons to be learned for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. So shifting gears a little bit, how have everything that we have gone through, and we've talked about everything we do in our community, everything we do for our causes that we believe on in our past, how it had shaped us to be who we are today. Shifting gears to career, let's talk about how you have found fulfillment, and how are you able to empower yourself and others by mixing the two, and how have you been able to kind of find that happy medium that helps you incorporate your passions and what you like to do and who you are as an individual to what you do for a living, right? So let's talk a little bit about that. Take me through that journey.
Sure. I mean, like most people that work in the insurance industry, I did not grow up thinking that I was going to be somebody that worked in the insurance industry. I think we all have our story of how we got into insurance. And, 11 years ago when my son was born, I was working in retail, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to sustain the number of hours or the lack of flexibility in my schedule, and also be the kind of parent and wife that I wanted to be. And so I sought out opportunities outside of retail. And at that time, I believe it or not, I did not have my college degree. And so I was limited to what opportunities I could pursue based on my experience at that time. And I did some research, and I spoke to a lot of people that I knew, including my family. And I had 3 aunts that all worked for Liberty Mutual Insurance for over 30 years, also from Maine. And they kind of encouraged me to take a look at working at Liberty. And so I went through the whole process. I gave up my great year in retail, much to dismay of my husband, and decided to take a chance on learning something new. And I'm really grateful that I did that for a number of reasons. Because number one, I was able to be the kind of mother and wife that I wanted to be, because I had work-life balance for the first time, which is, it was the biggest gift for me to be able to show up to work when the office opened, do what I needed to do while I was there, and then leave and get to be home to be with my baby at the time, and to be there, the kind of spouse that I wanted to be for my husband. It was a great gift. It was also a gift because after working for Liberty for over a year, I got to go back to college and obtain my degree. I got a degree in business, and that was always something that was really important to me. My father has 2 college degrees that he also got later in life through his, during the time that he was in the Air Force. And it was a value that he instilled in me. And, if I didn't have those opportunities, I don't think I would be as fulfilled or satisfied as an individual as I am now. Once I got my degree, I feel like I started to blossom as a person. I started to feel more confident. I started to feel more comfortable pursuing things that were really passionate and important to me. Even though I don't think that the lack of a degree or the lack of a education outside of high school or anything like that, I don't think it diminishes the value of an individual at all. I think there are a lot of people out there who do amazing things without access to education, but it just, for me and myself, it was something that I always wanted. So I feel very fortunate that I was able to get that by joining Liberty Mutual and working in insurance. Plus, I learned so many skills. I mean, it's kind of embarrassing actually how little I knew about insurance when I first started working in the business 11 years ago. Even though I was, in my 30s and I had assets, I had no idea what I was doing in terms of protecting them. And so that was like education on its own right. But over the years, I left Liberty. I worked for the agency market. And the thing that I loved about the agency market was how connected independent agents are to their communities. every single independent agent gives back to their local communities. They do it because they're part of the community. They do it because they live there. Many of them were like born and raised in the communities that they live in and they work in. It also helps them build relationships with the people that live in their area. And many of them are just really passionate about all of the different causes that they work with. I mean, if you go to a little league field in any town, you'll be hard pressed to find one that doesn't have a sign of support from an independent agent in that community, because they give back. The community asks for help and they give it. It's like an automatic thing. And so when I learned that, it just made me, something clicked for me, like, wow, this is where I belong. This community is where I belong, because I've always been about giving back. That's my mother and father both raised me to be that way. We always gave back, that's just what we did. I don't think that there is a better place to be, and certainly now I'm working at Safeco Insurance, and Safeco does more, Safeco and Liberty do more than pretty much any other carrier to support agents and their ability to give back. We give back millions of dollars. We donate millions of dollars every single year to our agents to then donate and give back to their communities, because we're really passionate about that cause. It's just kind of like a match made in heaven, really, because of my sort of deeply, closely held values. And it's a great marriage to work for a carrier that only works, with independent agents, and then the independent agents get to use our help to then help their communities. And it just makes me feel good about the work that I do. I mean, a lot of people think insurance is, evil and unnecessary evil. But at the end of the day, I always, 15 minutes. Yeah, right. But I always loved that I would finish a phone call and I knew I was helping somebody, no matter, what, but when I was in customer service or once I transitioned to sales, and even when I always feel like I'm helping the other person on the other end of the phone. You're teaching them something that is going to help them, so that when, some kind of catastrophe strikes, that they're not jeopardizing their entire future as a result of something that is outside of their control. And so I believe in our industry, like we help rebuild when things are bad. And that is an inherently good quality. And, as a business, yes, sure, we do also make money through that process. But if we didn't make money, and then there would be no insurance, and then where would everybody be? We need to continue to be profitable and so that we can continue to be there for the people that need us. So it is, I've learned to love this business because of what we do for other people.
Yeah. I think something beautiful about, and I know I keep saying the word beautiful, but it's just true. I can use other words, but I like that one. I think, let's say something great that our industry has is that most of us are able to actually intertwine our passion into what we do. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. Like the other day, I was talking to someone and she told me, well, I went to check your profile and you're in sales, you're in insurance, but it doesn't look like it. And that really got to me. And I was like, well, I think something we all need to come to understand is that insurance is not just your auto, home, umbrella commercial that you see on, your commercials on the TV or that you hear on the radio. Like, we are more than that. We are the person you call if you just had an accident and you're so nervous, you don't know what to do. You don't know what questions to ask. Right. We are the person that you are having an issue with refinancing your home because of language, and you call us in order for us to make sure that we make you understand that language and we help you to go through it. We explain that to you. We are the person. We are the people that when there are wildfires, we're the first one to show up to plant trees. We are the people who invest on forests and environment in order to be able to, have a better future. So yeah, my profile doesn't look probably anything because I don't post, oh, hit me up to buy auto insurance, because I am focused on helping people. And we all do it very differently.
Yeah.
Jessica, you focus on helping agents find, better ways of improving themselves and how to actually portray better products to their customers to fulfill their customer needs. And I focus on empowering, new communities, new people, employees, and like making sure that they have the tools that they need in order to become, better at what they do. And we're in insurance, but we do very different things.
Yes.
So I think, sorry, that was my phone. We're live.
No problem.
We're live. So, it is so amazing how we can all intertwine our passions into what we do. This podcast specifically, this podcast was born out of pain, and most of the people I'm interviewing either are in the insurance industry or mortgage or real estate or friends or whatever, but it's not about insurance. It's about, women empowerment, but we all have so much to give. We all have so many stories. And yes, we kind of landed in almost the same type of industries because of our ability to want to help and our want to change the world. So, or make a difference. So
yeah, to make a difference. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's amazing how we can use our industry as a vessel to actually empower ourselves to do what we really want to do with, people, with the world, with our communities, and at the same time do something, career-wise that we're passionate about. I think that it's beautiful. And every time somebody asks me, well, why are you in insurance? It's like, I don't know. I fell in love with it like 14 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it is
evolutionizing how, and the evolution of it is just something that most people call us geeks, because once you get into the industry, it's very difficult to leave because we get so passionate about it.
Yeah, well, what's helpful, I think, what's great about you and this podcast, and a lot of the my favorite agents that I'm working with right now are, many of them are new to the country, new to going out on their own and doing their own business and kind of trying to figure out how to start, how to get involved in their community. And I always tell them, what's important to you, who are the people that you want to help.
Yeah.
And having a niche in this business is a great way to grow. I mean, so if you I'm just going to say, if you happen to be somebody who is of, Portuguese descent, and you are also happen to be somebody who has studied the science and the art of insurance and selling it, and you want to go after that community, they need your help. They need to work with trusted advisors just as much as the people who have been living here for 200 years deserve to have access to trusted professional advisors. So guess what? You should invest and spend your time helping those people. It is very important for everybody to have access to good information, you know? And so I really am, that's another thing that I'm passionate about, is making sure that that there's equality for all. And in our business, I think that there's room to grow there. There's room to change the what does an insurance agent look like? 10 years ago, they didn't look like you or me, probably, right? So it is good that is changing and evolving. And I think you should be proud of the work that you're doing, because it's helping. This is a great industry for young people to work in. Yeah. There are so many opportunities. There are so many people that need help. And it is a recession resistant business to work in. So it's great for many reasons. I could talk about, the benefits of working in insurance for an entire separate podcast. Maybe you and I could explore that down the road. But,
Yes.
I think it's great what you're doing, because I'm hoping that we'll attract younger people. We need new ideas. We need fresh ideas, and we need our business to reflect all of the communities that we serve, right?
Right.
So we need more people to be involved. We need a diverse group of independent agents to take care of all of the great diverse folks that live in the great state of Massachusetts. And so I'm excited to be a part of that too.
Yeah, I think it's important to stress too that there is such a huge opportunity for us as women to right now within our industry, because our industry has been led by men for so long. But we're coming through a gap. We're coming through a gap where all these people are going to be retiring within the next 10 years or so. And that's coming closer than we think. And I know college, with the exception of the few, they don't offer like an insurance major or anything like that. But I think for our younger generation, and I know InsurTech, it's really hot right now, but our industry is not going anywhere. It's been here for hundreds and thousands of years, and it's not going to go anywhere. I mean, granted, it didn't look like this long time ago when it initiated, in London, and then it came here, and then, it's been like, I think when I read the history, it was like in the 1800s, it's kind of when we started here in Massachusetts.
We've come a long way from the first fire insurance policy, for sure.
Yeah. So we're not going anywhere, and we have such a big opportunity for our generation, the younger generation. And I think if there was something I would like to see is younger women interested on not settling for being on customer service, or being in I don't know, on claims, because they're really good at claims, or or just overnight call centers. Like, I want to see women wanting more, because yes, it is a reality that before, because of the responsibility that a woman had, they needed the 9 to 5, easy, just need to be home, take care of the kids, need that flexibility. But we can always dream more. We can always have more. And the beauty of this now is that we can have the flexibility. We have the flexibility, and we can make it what we want to make it. I think
I was just going to say, that's one of the greatest things that's come out of 2020 is that our business, we finally realized, we can adapt and be flexible, and we can pivot. You know what I mean? Like, the technology has always been there for us to do it. And I talk to agents about this every single day who are like, I never thought I would be able to have a staff working from home. And now I'm so glad that we figured this out, because when their kid has a snow day or their kid has a fever and can't go to school, they can still work and drive results from home. So this is a great business for women, because it does afford flexibility. There are tons of great agencies out there that are looking for help right now, yours included, where there are a lot of transferable skills from other types of industries where you can learn. We can teach you about insurance. We can help you get licensed, and you can help people make a real difference, but also still take care of your family and have a career, having something that's valuable to you, that gives you everything that you need. The work-life balance is easy to have in this business, and which is obviously has always been important for women who are also working. So this year has been incredible. I love that now, me having a virtual meeting with an agent is not a big deal. But a year ago, if I asked somebody to do that, I think that it would have been a different conversation.
Yeah, you got to suit up and show up.
Yes. Yeah. Put on the fancy clothes and the fancy shoes, which, you know, hey, I know we both miss that too, but
Yeah.
you know, it's amazing what we can do and what we can accomplish in this environment by simply just deciding that we want to do it this way.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think we have been given the opportunity to reimagine how work looks like. And I think, you know, where I'm at, you know, at Risman, I think we are a 98% woman staff right now. I think, you know, sorry, you know,
Good job, Henry.
Adam, you know, Phil, and Dan, you guys are minority. Sorry about that, but
I don't think they have any problems with that. I think they're fine with it.
But you know, for an industry that it's, you know, on the independent channel, we're mostly dominated by women.
Yes.
You needed that to happen. You needed that to happen because the anxiety about having kids, the anxiety of do I need to, you know, really pay $1,500 a month for my kid to go part-time daycare and be able to pick them up by 3 o'clock. Like all that stuff now, it's not an excuse.
Right.
In order for you wanting to succeed and you going for what you really deserve. So, you know, I really believe, you know, now we're on 2021, but 2020, and as we go through all this, we have been given a second chance and an opportunity to actually provide women with, you know, more in what they really deserved as, you know, as moms, as wives, and as workers. So to conclude, what will be yeah, I have two questions actually, so we might not be done soon, but how do you or what will you say will be a way that women can take this opportunity and transcend right now into what they want to be?
Well, I think it starts by first, let's acknowledge that we don't all have to be the same. You know, first of all, we don't all have the same desires and wants and needs and goals, and that is perfectly okay. You know, if for me, I want to work, I enjoy working, I am an ambitious person, I want to do a lot of things, but not everybody wants that. You know, my mom is a florist. She has been since she was 14 years old. And I won't say how old she is on this podcast, although people probably could figure it out by doing the math that we talked about earlier. But she has no interest in doing anything more than that. Even though I have for years, I tried to convince her to open her own shop. I even told her like I would invest and I would help her manage it and everything. She's no interest. So I think first it's important to acknowledge that whatever you want, that is okay. You know, if with your dreams or goals or your ambitions are to run the world or to just run your household, all of that is okay, and everything in between is okay.
100%.
Yeah. So, you know, for me as a woman, I think that, you know, I just kind of lean into all of it we're being asked to do right now. You know, we have to work, we have to take care of our kids, we have to, you know, help. Sometimes we're helping teach them, you know, we're playing personal chef and maid and all of those things. And, I'm just going to keep doing that because I feel like it's a gift that I get to do all these things right now and just take it day by day. Really. I mean, what else can any of us do? You know, we don't have control over everything. And so I think it's important that we all remember that too, just to focus on what you can control, because it's easy to get overwhelmed and spin out and take care of our mental health. That's really important too.
Yeah, I totally agree. There is one aha moment that I had during this whole thing, and I am OCD. I have to accept it. I am OCD. Whoever comes to my house said, "Oh my God, do anybody lives here?" Because everything has its place, and I cannot leave my house unless everything is clean, right? So imagine living here for a whole year with my husband and my daughter with a mess. Anxiety at
That's
110,
a burden. Yeah, that's a
110%.
burden.
So one day, my daughter comes down. I think it was recently. It was like in October, 2020, and she there was a mess in the kitchen, and she had to quickly go back from her break because she only gets half an hour lunch. And then she's like, "Mom, it's okay. Don't lose control, Mom. We're home. I'll do it as soon as I'm done with my school." And I was like, you know what? She's right. Like, stop trying to control everything. We're all at home. Nobody's visiting you. You're not going anywhere. Your home is your home. Why does it have to be clean all the time? And that was a very big aha moment for me. And when you say, we don't have control over everything, I think that's really important to acknowledge, because for me it's the cleaning, but for other parents, and other women out there, it could be, dinner. It could be laundry. It could be just even toys because they have toddlers. It could just be that, we couldn't go to the supermarket today, to the grocery shopping, so just eat hot dogs. Who knows?
I had a friend that I talked off the ledge because she was crying to me that her child had to eat SpaghettiOs for dinner, and she felt embarrassed that they were eating that. I said, "What are you talking about? They're eating. You're winning. They're fed. You have a roof over your house, over your head, and food for your child to eat. They are not there are lots of kids out there who would be, yes, I got SpaghettiOs for dinner. If that's not the benchmark of what kind of parent you are. Is that if your kid is having to eat, SpaghettiOs for dinner, that's, I think we have to reassess our priorities. That's something that I've taken away from 2020. And I know a lot of my peers feel the same ways, that what was important to us this time last year is maybe not necessarily still important. Because time is something that we can't get more of, right? We all know that we can't get more time. And it's been a gift to spend this time with each other. I mean, yeah, sure. Sometimes I just want to go outside and walk around and be away from my family too. But at the same time, I've gotten to watch my kid's entire 10th year on the planet. I've watched him change and evolve as a human being over the last year. I feel so fortunate. And that's certainly not something that my mother had or father had as an opportunity. When we were 10, they were both working like crazy people, and we were in school, and then we were in aftercare, and then we were in sports and all that. There was not a lot of quality time together there has been. So that, is a gift, and time is most important. Family is very important. If we are still, so many people keep talking about how what we're dealing with right now is temporary, and I'll agree that it is temporary, but there have been some permanent changes. And for some people, they've lost loved ones, and those people can't come back. And so that is a permanent change. And so that really weighs heavily on me. I just want to be grateful for the fact that I'm here, that all of my loved ones are still here, and that I have the opportunity to give back to those who need it in my community, because there's certainly a lot of need out there.
Yeah, I think it's just, to close up, I think it's important for everyone, and especially women, to remember that our success as whatever it is that we are, moms, no moms, wives, girlfriends, whatever it is, workers, not workers, employees, business owners, does not depend on the daily activities that we put ourselves into so much trouble with, and does not depend on the amount of tasks that we complete on a daily basis. Because if it's something I've learned, is that empowerment comes from within and from those that surround you. So I think, if there is a message that I will give to women out there today in regards of everything that we have spoken about, it will be to just realize that you are at your best when you feel at your best, and not when you feel stretched, or when you are trying to, comply with what you think is expected of you. What would you tell them today?
I would tell every woman out there that she is enough. Whatever you can do today is enough.
Yeah.
And that you matter to the world, no matter what it is that you're bringing to the table in this moment. And keep fighting for yourself, because it's really important that we all just keep pushing, keep persevering, and also keep continuing to be there for each other, because that's that's what it's all about. I have always been a feminist, and I am all about empowering other women. I think it is great, the evolution that is experienced in my lifetime, where women do now really support each other more than they ever have in the past. And I think we have to do more of that. And I would encourage every woman to look around and just try to keep lifting up the other women around you, because we are, there is no world without us, right? Like, we're the ones that can continue to make sure that humankind exists. So make sure that the other women around you are okay, and that they feel like they're enough too, because they are.
100%. Well, Jess, thank you so much for being here today. I think your story is powerful. I think, we definitely have other topics to talk about, and we'll definitely bring those in. And I am so grateful, to know you, to be close to you, to now know you better, because I think we never finish learning about each other. We never really know one human completely, right? So I am grateful for the opportunity of you coming in here.
Thank you so much for having me, Monica. Honestly, I had no idea how this was going to go today, but I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Yeah,
so fun to talk to you.
Same here. So are you ready for our final 5 quick hitters?
Yes, let's go. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So transcending is
rising above all of it to be the best version of yourself.
Amazing. Favorite food?
My favorite food is Thai food and ice cream.
I love Thai food.
Not necessarily together, but
I don't do much the spicy. People think that because I am from Puerto Rico, I like spicy, but I don't. But the Thai food, the right balance on Thai food, I will eat it.
When we can go back to having meals together, I'll take you to this place in North Andover that has the best Thai food ever. It's so good.
That's a date. Definitely a date.
All right.
What's your favorite music?
So I love music from the 80s and the 90s. My favorite artist is probably Whitney Houston. She was my first concert. But I like all kinds of music. I'm kind of a music junkie, so it's really hard for me to choose that. But I'll say music from like 1986 to 1996 is probably my sweet spot.
All right. Favorite book so far, or during this time, because you read a lot. So
I know.
That's a favorite book for the past week or so, or last month.
This is a really hard question for me because of how much I read. I'll say this. My favorite book that I've read in the last year is called The Race Against Time. It's a nonfiction book written by Jerry Mitchell, and it is about unsolved cold cases from the civil rights era. And it is fascinating. It's nonfiction, but it reads like fiction. You can't believe that it's real. But that's probably my favorite book I've read in the last year.
Wow. Okay. I've never heard of it. That's pretty
really good.
Okay. I think I need to add it to my list. I've been, from doing all this podcast, I have such a huge list to like.
I bet. I love seeing people's to read lists because I keep adding it to mine. Yeah. I'll have to show you a picture of my nightstand. I probably have about 40 books on my nightstand. It's like my husband is beside himself, like, what is happening here? And he got me a Kindle for Christmas. Now I'm like, oh, good. I don't have to have clutter in my house. I'll just read the books on my Kindle. But yeah, I read a lot.
Yeah.
Not, that was actually one of the best things when I finished school, when I finished graduating from Merrimack. When I finally got my degree, I could get back all my reading time. And I feel like I'm making up for all that lost time that I could only read for school. And now I read for me's, which is such a gift. I love it.
That's amazing. Who is your favorite woman influencer?
Well, it was Ruth Bader Ginsburg. It's probably still Ruth Bader Ginsburg. But I admire so many women. I really admire Melinda Gates. I love Oprah. I guess those are probably my top two right now.
Yeah, it's funny.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg. That was a big hit for me.
Yeah, it's funny to say Melissa Gates because, Bill Gates is so famous and everything. And they actually have a series in Netflix about them. And I really didn't know about Melinda until probably 3 years ago or so, because she's never been the public figure on that family. And oh my God, she blew my mind away. All the stuff that she does, especially with children and the communities, in wanting to forge better education systems for less fortunate communities, remote communities.
Right.
And what their foundation does, I think it's amazing. I know a lot of people focus on the negative, on how they probably are related to all these viruses because they invest a lot on the health and whatever. But there is so much more that they do.
They do a lot of good. Yeah, they do a lot of good for the world.
And she's usually the one that that comes up with the idea. And then, Bill is a little bit more of the brains operationally, and she's the heart. And a lot of people don't know that. But I am glad that she's actually getting out of the shell and getting her name out there, because I think she does an amazing work.
I admire her quite a bit.
Yeah. The way that, granted, this is not a podcast about Melinda Gates and how much we love her, but
oh, we love you.
I do admire. I do admire the way also that they kind of set up their kids' life not to be too privileged. If you get the opportunity to watch that episode where they talk about their kids and how they're not giving their kids their fortune, it blew me away. I mean, granted.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I'm going to add that to my Netflix list.
Yes, you should. Well, again, thank you. I really appreciate your time, and
thank you.
I'll definitely see you soon. We have to get together, work related. So
yes, we're gonna get together and talk shop very soon. I will. I'll message you next week.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you so much, Monica.
Bye.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You too.
Take care.
Hey y'all, thanks for listening. I hope that you found this episode inspiring and that one way or another you were able to identify with today's story. Remember, like Catherine Stockett said, you is kind, you is smart, you is important. Start believing in yourself and empower those around you, because you never know when suddenly someone can realize they have a choice in what they could believe and do in this world. If you don't follow us yet, please subscribe at our YouTube channel, which is under my name, Monica Duani. You can also follow us on Instagram at TranscendwithM. Or if you just want to chat with me one-on-one, make sure to just connect on LinkedIn and send me a message. It's Monica Duani, and I'm always here for you. I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you next week.